Welcome to God's Living Word of Translation. I'm your host, Stephen Light, and I'm glad that you're joining me here on the podcast, where I endeavor to bring you living words of joy and happiness to help you with your deeper walk with God. These are usually short little tidbits that I would bring each week, and hopefully keeping them under 10 minutes. Today's living word is love. Love is one of the greatest words that Jesus Christ had for his apostles and disciples following him after the resurrection. It was his main message to them to go out and teach to the world. And it's vitally important, love is, in our own lives and the giving love to other people that we come in contact with. And we're going to go over to the Apostle John, chapter 13 and verse 34. A new commandment I give unto you. Did you hear that? A new commandment. This is Jesus speaking. Red letter. If you have a red letter Bible, I'm reading out of the King James Version. If you're interested. A new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another, as I have loved you, that ye also love one another. By this shall all men know that you are my disciples, if you have love one to another. So this is the new commandment that Jesus was telling his disciples and his apostles. And right here, he was saying that to one of his apostles, Simon Peter, and was listening to him. But it was so vitally important because Jesus knew this is the one thing that could change the world. It's love. It is the most important thing that he gave to his apostles and the most important message. It is the greatest of them all. And let's go over and take a look at 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and verse 13. That's the very last verse. As we'll go over and take a look at this and read it. And this is one of the things, as I said before, I'm reading out of the King James Version. Remember, the King James Version was translated in the Old Testament out of the Chaldee or Hebrew, and out of the New Testament out of the Greek. And from time to time, if you're using a Strong's Concordance, you can look up these words and get the original context in the Greek and the original word. And we're going to see here there was a mistranslation. It becomes vitally important to understand that. We look up these things to make sure that we are getting the full translation from the original context that it was written in. And now abideth faith, hope, charity. These three, but the greatest of these is charity. You see that word charity here out of the Greek. If you look it up in the Strong's Concordance, that word charity is actually love. It was mistranslated. So it's not like you giving your clothes to the Goodwill and, giving things to people and those kind of things. Not that type of charity. This word is actually love. And out of faith, don't get me wrong, faith is greatly important. You can't please God without faith and really can't accomplish anything for God without faith. And hope is important also. But as you see here, love is the greatest of all of those. Without love, really, we can't change the world. We're not talking about just love, in the sense that we use it in the world. Because we know that we say to someone, hey, I love you, baby. And they may move in with you, as we know. And 6 months later, you're saying, get the heck out. I hate you, baby. And that's how the world loves. That isn't what we're talking about. God's love is unconditional. And really, you can't really love without God or Christ in your life. It's vitally important to understand that because God is love. And if we go over here to the first epistle of John, chapter 4, we'll go down and read in verse 7 through 8. First epistle of John, chapter 4, verse 7 and 8. Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God. And everyone that loveth is born of God, and knoweth God. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. And that's very important to understand. Like I said, this is a different type of love. It's unconditional. And it's loving people that, sometimes we run into a lot of people with personalities that we quite don't understand. And maybe some people that we believe are being hateful to us and mean. And that's okay. But the most important thing when they're being hateful and maybe we don't understand, why they're treating us the way that they do, is us to present love to them and love them back. And that's vitally important in the message of God and Jesus. That was his main message to the apostles. And I think it's no more readily seen but in Matthew, where Jesus is talking. Let's go over to Matthew chapter 5 and take a look at this. This is vitally important that we understand this as Christians even. It's something I think we've missed. And what we think maybe loving our other Christian brothers and stuff like that. But no, that's not really the message. It's really loving all that's even cursing us and being hateful to us. Let's look at Matthew chapter 5 and verse 43. And we kind of see what Jesus is saying here. Now, if you got a red letter Bible, as I'm reading out of in the King James Version, we're going to see that that is Jesus talking in red letters, and we're going to see what he says. You have heard that it has been said, thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, this is Jesus Christ speaking, but I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. See, the ones that Jesus is saying, the ones that are your enemies. And who's really your enemy? That's the one thing we have to really realize, as Paul said, know no man after the flesh, but by the Spirit. These people are in bondage to spirits that's showing this hate. And we have God. And greater than is in you that is in the world. And good conquers evil. So this love that you're giving to this person that may be in bondage to a spirit of hate, this love can conquer that hate. And it's vitally important, as you said, as Jesus says here, the people that curse you and hate you, pray for them. That despitefully use you and persecute you. And if we go on down here in the next verse, in 45, he said that you may be the children of your Father, which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. You see, he sends his sun to rise on the evil. See, you're the light. See, what did he say, guys? What did Jesus Christ say? I lighteth every man that cometh into this world. You are the light. And yes, sometimes when we're a bright light, you're going to attract a few bugs, aren't you? attract a few bugs, but that's okay. Huh? Keep that light bright and shining bright, and keep giving that love. And look at the very 46, what he says. He said, but if you love them which love you, what reward have you? Do not even the publicans the same? What's he saying here? Even the world. That's how they love. If you love me, I will love you back. But that's where I think we Christians have missed it. It's beyond that. We have to send love even to those that are not maybe what we feel is doing the right things towards us. And that's okay. But love is the one thing that can change the world. It really is. The one thing that can change the entire world. And we just need enough of us Christians, coming together and realizing that, and spreading the word, and spreading the love of God, because love is God, as we've just read, and it can make the total difference in the lives of people. And it may be you, to someone that's being what you believe is being hateful towards you. But by you sending that love and planting that seed, you may not see it. Next week, they may be as hateful as ever towards you. And you're saying, boy, that love didn't, that didn't seem to be taking hold. That's okay. Because you understand God's living forever. What we feel like in weeks, is the blink of an eye of seconds. And it may be 2 or 3 years down the road, and someone else may go and water that seed and bring them on to Christ. But what you did in planting that seed was vitally important for that to happen. So this is where we need to get to. We need to spread the love of God. It is vitally important. And the one thing we got to know is love is a spirit, because God is a spirit. As the Apostle John said in chapter 4, God is a spirit and must be worshipped in spirit. So it is a spirit, and we need to just bring it to the world. And if enough of us is bring it to the world, we can change the world. And the one thing I know is love doesn't care what color you are, what race you are, because it's a spirit. And it's the one common factor that we can all grow together with is love. No matter what we look like, how we walk, what color we are, where we're from, love is the common denominator. Well, that's all I have today in this podcast. I appreciate you joining me today, and hopefully next week you'll join me on next week's podcast of God's Living Word of Translation, and hopefully we can bring you a new living word that will bring joy and power and happiness to your life. Until next week, God bless. See you soon.